Hello everyone. Today we are going to embark on a life or death journey that many people over 60 don't realize they are embarking on every day. Did you know, just by sitting or sitting for too long, you can't move for a few minutes? No crash, no warning, just a quiet session, and then a fight to the finish. Stay until the end to understand why thousands of seniors are paralyzed, have dementia, and even die, all because of something seemingly harmless, sitting for too long. This video is not to tease you, it is to save you, and sometimes a timely piece of information can save a life. Let's get started.
I had to stop for a moment when I looked at Mr. Willis's scan. A 71-year-old man, non-smoker, walked every morning, retired carpenter. His blood work had been mostly steady for the past 5 years. Yet here he was, lying on a hospital bed, his right arm barely moving, his speech-slurred eyes confused. He had suffered a stroke. A mild one, thank God. But still a stroke. And the strangest part, he ate what most people would call a healthy breakfast. You see, sir, what you eat in the morning doesn't just fuel your day. It can decide how many more mornings you'll wake up to. I say that with deep urgency, not just as a neurologist, but as someone who has watched too many older men and women collapse under the weight of a silent enemy that started on their plate. This video is not meant to scare you, but it is meant to wake you up. Because stroke is not some rare lightning strike. In fact, every 40 seconds, someone suffers a stroke in the United States. And if you're over 60, your risk jumps even higher. But here's the heartbreaking part. Many of these strokes could have been prevented. And often the trigger was not something dramatic. It was something as simple as breakfast. When was the last time you looked closely at your morning routine? Not just whether you had toast or coffee, but how those foods are interacting with your aging body. There's something important I want you to understand. As we get older, our bodies become more sensitive to inflammation, to cholesterol spikes, to sudden surges in blood pressure. What a 25-year-old body can brush off with a shrug, your 68-year-old arteries may not. Let me ask you, do you ever feel unusually tired after breakfast? Do you sometimes get lightheaded mid-morning or notice your fingers tingling when you try to grip a mug? Have you caught yourself losing your train of thought more often lately? These may not seem like much, but they're gentle knocks from your nervous system, little signs that something deeper might be out of balance. I once read an article from the National Stroke Association that struck me to the core. It said that nearly 80% of strokes are preventable. Let that sink in. 4 out of 5 people may not have had to go through that suffering, not if they had made a few critical changes, many of which start in the kitchen. One morning I sat with Mrs. Jeanette, a 69-year-old woman who came in for dizziness and forgetfulness. She was sure it was just stress from watching her grandkids all summer. But when we checked her blood pressure, it was dangerously high. Her cholesterol was edging toward the red zone, and yet she had never felt sick. That's the problem. Most of the damage happens silently. You don't feel the cholesterol hardening in your arteries. You don't sense the clots forming. Until one day, a blood vessel in your brain bursts or gets blocked, and your whole life changes in an instant. I've met too many families in tears wishing they had known sooner, wishing someone had warned them. So today, allow me to be that voice. Not because I want you to be afraid, but because I want you to be equipped. Your breakfast isn't just about taste. It's about circulation cognition and whether you'll still be able to hug your grandchildren 10 years from now. There was a study published just last year, a collaboration between researchers in Sweden and Canada, showing that people over 65 who consumed certain breakfast ingredients regularly were 2.7 times more likely to suffer a stroke than those who didn't. That's not a small difference. That's nearly triple the risk just from something they thought was helping them start the day right. I'll go deeper into what those specific foods are in just a moment. But I want you to remember this, sir. Your brain relies on healthy blood flow, clean vessels, and stable blood pressure. Anything that clogs, spikes, or disrupts those, especially first thing in the morning, puts you at risk. As a doctor, I've seen how one small shift can lead to dramatic transformation. A man in his 70s cut out just one item from his breakfast, and within weeks his blood pressure was back in a safer range. Another woman replaced her usual breakfast drink, and the migraine she'd been getting, which were many warning signs of restricted blood flow, started fading. These changes aren't always easy at first, but they're life-saving. So if you're watching this and something inside you feels called to action, follow that instinct. Don't brush it off. Your body may already be trying to warn you. Look at your breakfast plate tomorrow. Think not just about flavor, but about your future, your independence, your sharpness, your life. And please, if this message resonates with you, let me know in the comments below. If it doesn't, type 0. I want to understand what you need so I can serve you better. And don't forget to subscribe, because every week I'll be sharing doctor-backed, heart-centered advice made specifically for you for your stage of life. I want to talk to you as if we were sitting across from each other in your living room. Maybe you've got your coffee nearby. Maybe the morning sun is coming through the blinds. That's how important this feels to me, like a conversation we should have had years ago. Because what I'm about to share has affected far too many people, and it's almost always hiding in plain sight. Let's talk about the first type of breakfast food I warn all my older patients about: processed meats. Yes, those sausages, bacon strips, ham slices, even turkey deli meats. You might say, "But doctor, I've eaten those all my life." And that's exactly why it's so dangerous. Because they've become part of the background, familiar, comforting, and they come with this illusion of strength and protein. But beneath that golden, crisp, or hearty chew lies something far more troubling. When you eat processed meats regularly, especially first thing in the morning, your body isn't just getting salt and fat. It's getting a flood of nitrates, nitrites, and preservatives that put strain on your blood vessels. And if you're in your 60s or 70s, your arteries are already more sensitive. A report I read from the World Health Organization classified processed meats as a Group 1 carcinogen, the same category as tobacco. But beyond cancer risk, what many people don't realize is how heavily these meats influence your stroke risk. Let me put it plainly, sir. Every time you eat high-sodium, preservative-heavy meats, your blood pressure can spike. Over time, this hardens the arteries. It narrows them. It encourages clot formation. If that clot travels to your brain, you know what happens. And often, the stroke hits without warning. I treated a man named Leonard not too long ago. He was 73, former school teacher, proud grandfather of 4. He told me he didn't smoke, didn't drink, stayed pretty active. But every morning for 20 years, he had bacon and eggs, the American breakfast, as he called it. When he came in after his minor stroke, I reviewed his sodium intake. His breakfast alone accounted for nearly half of his daily limit. His arteries were crying out for relief, but he'd never heard anyone say that breakfast could be the culprit. I sat with Leonard in silence for a moment, then I showed him a recent clinical review from the American Heart Association. It revealed that older adults who regularly consumed processed meats had a 42% higher risk of stroke. That's not a footnote. That's a flashing red light. Leonard blinked and said, "No one ever told me. So I'm telling you now. Please don't think I'm asking you to eat flavorless food. That's not it at all. But what I do want you to do is notice what you're actually putting in your body. Think about the salt. Think about the cholesterol. Most of all, think about what these ingredients do inside your vessels. If you've ever woken up with stiffness in your neck, or a dull headache that seemed to come from nowhere, or even blurry vision that passed in a few minutes, don't ignore it. Those might not be just aging pains. They could be signs of impaired blood flow. Your brain depends on clear, healthy vessels to function. Once they start to clog or rupture, the damage can be swift and unforgiving. I often refer back to something Dr. Nancy Patel, a stroke specialist from Boston, said in a conference I attended years ago. Breakfast isn't a moment of indulgence. For older adults, it's a battleground. Either it protects the brain or it pushes it closer to crisis. That stuck with me, and I've repeated it to every patient since. You don't have to give up everything at once. Start by cutting back. Replace bacon with fresh avocado slices, or sautéed spinach with garlic and olive oil. It's not just about eating less, it's about eating smarter. It's about choosing life every morning with every bite. And if you've been feeling overwhelmed or confused, please remember you are not alone. Many of my patients felt just as lost in the beginning, but they asked questions. They made one small change, and their bodies began to respond. Within weeks, some lowered their blood pressure. Some felt more mentally alert. One woman even told me her chronic brain fog lifted after she stopped eating deli turkey and replaced it with Greek yogurt and berries. This is not about fear. It's about freedom. The freedom to stay in your home instead of a rehab facility. The freedom to remember the names of your loved ones. The freedom to hold a pen steady in your hand or climb stairs without gasping. That's the freedom I want you to have, and it begins with knowledge. So the next time you reach for that familiar sausage link or that slice of ham paws, think about Leonard. Think about your own body. Ask yourself, is this feeding my life or threatening it? Let's say it plainly, sir. Not all sugar is sweet to your brain. There's something deeply troubling about how sugar hides itself in your breakfast. It doesn't always look like a candy bar or a slice of cake. Sometimes it dresses up like a healthy start of yogurt parfait, a smoothie, a bowl of granola. But if you take a closer look, what you'll find is a sugar bomb disguised in a halo. I need you to understand something that's changed the way I practice medicine. High sugar breakfasts are one of the most common triggers for small vessel damage in older adults. And small vessel damage is one of the silent roads to a stroke. I've seen it too many times to stay quiet. Not because I want to scare you, but because you deserve to know what's really happening inside your body. Let me take you inside your brain for a moment. Imagine your brain as a vast city lit by electricity. The blood vessels are the wires. They carry oxygen, nutrients, information. When those vessels are healthy, your brain stays sharp, your balance steady, your thoughts clear. But sugar, especially refined sugar, corrodes those wires like rust on metal. It inflames the lining of your blood vessels. It increases blood pressure. And most dangerously, it encourages the buildup of plaque that narrows those vessels until one day something gets stuck. Have you ever felt a sudden wave of fatigue after breakfast, like your energy just vanished? Or maybe you felt strangely emotional, mid-morning, anxious, weepy, unexplainably irritated. That's not just mood. That could be your blood sugar crashing after a spike. And those surges and drops over time take a toll not only on your energy, but on your brain stability. I once treated a woman named Diane, 66, retired librarian, full of warmth and wit. She came to see me because of memory slips that were starting to frighten her. She couldn't remember her PIN number one day. She forgot a neighbor's name the next. It wasn't dementia, not yet, but we needed to act fast. When we looked at her morning habits, something jumped out immediately. Every day she drank what she believed was a healthy smoothie, banana mango, low-fat yogurt, a spoon of honey, a sprinkle of granola. Sounds innocent, doesn't it? But when we broke it down, that health drink had nearly 45 grams of sugar. That's more than what the American Heart Association recommends for an entire day in one glass. And the worst part? She'd drink it on an empty stomach, which meant the sugar hit her bloodstream like a tidal wave. Her insulin would spike, her blood pressure would rise, and then crash. Her vessels were being strained every single morning. And here's where it gets more serious. A recent study from the University of California found that older adults who consumed high glycemic breakfasts, meaning foods that rapidly raise blood sugar, had double the rate of silent strokes. These are strokes that don't cause immediate collapse but gradually damage brain tissue. You might not even know you had one until years later when the signs of cognitive decline start surfacing. I remember Diane's face when I explained this. Not panic, just sadness. No one ever told me fruit could hurt me, she said. But the truth is, it's not the fruit alone, it's the overload. It's the concentrated sugar. It's what happens when the body no longer processes glucose as easily as it did at 30. Because at 66 or 76, your pancreas is working slower. Your vessels are more fragile. Your brain is less forgiving. That's why when you sit down to eat in the morning, I want you to think not just about fullness, but about stability. What will keep your energy steady? What will support your arteries, not strain them? What will protect your memory? So here's something I often tell my patients: if you're going to eat fruit, pair it with protein or healthy fat. If you're craving something sweet, choose fiber-rich options like berries, and avoid processed granola-flavored yogurts and breakfast bars that are often just candy in disguise. A simple handful of walnuts, a boiled egg, or a slice of avocado can do more for your brain than a sweetened drink ever could. And remember, this isn't about punishment. It's about protection. Because I've seen what happens when we ignore these signs. I've seen men like Harold who laughed off his dizziness until he woke up unable to speak. I've seen women like Diane who thought they were doing everything right, but were unknowingly damaging their own brains every single morning. You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to be aware. Start with your plate. Look at what's really in that bowl, that cup, that healthy snack. Ask yourself, is this stabilizing my body or spiking it? Because the truth is your brain doesn't need sweetness. It needs steadiness. It needs blood flow. It needs oxygen. And what you choose to eat after you wake up that sets the stage for everything else. I want to take a moment and speak to you directly. Not as a doctor now, but as someone who's sat beside too many hospital beds, held trembling hands, and answered one heartbreaking question over and over again. Why didn't anyone tell me? Sir, ma'am, I'm telling you now. The third breakfast food you need to watch out for doesn't sizzle like bacon or taste sweet like syrup. It's quiet. It often comes in a warm mug. It's the bread toast or bagel on your plate, yes, but more importantly, it's the refined carbs hiding in your daily routine. I'm talking about white bread, sugary cereals, biscuits, pancakes made from boxed mix, and even some so-called whole grain breads that are more sugar and starch than anything whole. These foods rapidly break down into glucose, causing sharp rises in blood sugar, much like the sugar-packed meals we just talked about. But they're even sneakier because we associate them with comfort, tradition, even nourishment. I once had a patient named Frank. He was 74, a retired postman from Ohio's strong hands, the kind of man who'd fixed his own roof at 60. He came to me after suffering what's called a TIA, a transient ischemic attack often referred to as a mini-stroke. He said it was like someone hit the pause button on his body. His hand wouldn't move for a few minutes, his speech slurred, and just as suddenly as it began, it ended. But it left behind a terrible fear. Frank's breakfast every morning was toast 2 slices of white bread lightly buttered and sometimes a bowl of cornflakes with milk. He'd eaten that meal every day for decades, but his body had changed, and the food hadn't. When I showed him how fast those refined carbs converted to sugar, how they flooded his bloodstream and spiked his insulin, he was stunned. I thought bread was safe, he whispered, and that's the trap. Refined carbs are often seen as neutral, but after age 60, they are anything but. A 2019 study published by researchers from the Mayo Clinic found that diets high in refined carbohydrates were associated with a significant increase in the risk of ischemic stroke in older adults. The reason is clear: when your blood sugar spikes and crashes, your body responds with inflammation. Your blood becomes more prone to clotting. The lining of your arteries, especially the tiny ones in the brain, starts to break down. It's like wear and tear on an old pipe. One day it bursts. And that burst, that's a stroke. Have you ever felt dizzy when standing up too fast? Or had moments where your hands felt numb or tingly without explanation? Maybe your balance has gotten just a little more uncertain, or you've been struggling to focus when reading or writing. These are not always signs of aging. Sometimes they're early signals, signs that your blood isn't moving as it should, that your vessels are narrowing, that something inside is straining under the pressure. And I don't share this to overwhelm you. I share it because change is still possible. Your body even now can heal. The vessels in your brain can regain some flexibility. Your blood sugar can stabilize. Your risk of stroke can drop even if you're 70 or 80. I've seen it happen patient after patient. I remember Frank after 6 weeks of switching his breakfast. He started making simple omelets with spinach and mushrooms. Sometimes he had steel-cut oats with flaxseed and a few blueberries. He told me his energy felt more stable. He wasn't nodding off mid-morning anymore, and the tingling in his hands, it stopped completely. It's not magic, it's biology. When you stop overloading your bloodstream with glucose first thing in the morning, your body breathes. Your heart beats easier. Your brain gets the oxygen it craves. And most importantly, your vessels, those delicate lifelines in your head, are no longer under siege. I know it's tempting to think, well, I've eaten like this for years and I've made it this far. But I need to remind you the damage often builds quietly. A silent stroke doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It sneaks in, steals a little bit of memory, a little bit of movement, a little bit of your independence. By the time it's noticeable, it's harder to reverse. So I'm urging you gently but firmly, look at your plate. Is that cereal full of added sugars? Is that bread made with enriched white flour? Does your breakfast leave you hungry and irritable 2 hours later? If so, your brain is asking for help. Swap those out. Choose protein, healthy fats, real fiber. Even small adjustments like replacing white toast with sprouted grain bread or having eggs with vegetables instead of pancakes can make a world of difference. You don't have to give up taste. You just have to give up the illusion that familiar means safe. And if you feel uncertain, if you're not sure where to begin, just start with one question every morning. Is this food feeding my strength or feeding the stroke I can't yet see? That single question might save your life. Let me take you somewhere for a moment, not a clinic or a hospital, but a quiet kitchen in an old house in Georgia. The smell of eggs, coffee, and toasted bread is in the air. The morning sun is coming through the window. And sitting at the table is someone like you. Maybe you are him, a person who's lived through decades of change, hardship, joy, and loss. A person whose body has carried them faithfully through so much, and yet somewhere deep inside, you've started to feel something's not quite right. The body doesn't wake up as easily. The legs feel just a little stiffer. The memories sometimes slip through your fingers like mist. You blame it on age. But as someone who has spent nearly 30 years watching these signs develop, let me be honest with you, aging is only part of it. So much of what we call getting old is actually just the body reacting to poor circulation, inflammation, and silent strokes caused by years of small repeated damage. And one of the first places that damage starts is breakfast. You see, the food you choose. First thing in the morning isn't just fuel, it's an instruction. It tells your body how to process the day. Will your brain be nourished and focused? Or will it spend hours battling blood sugar spikes, stiffening arteries, and fatigue? One of my most unforgettable patients was a woman named Ruth. She was 81 when she came to me, proud and fiercely independent, still gardening, still driving, still volunteering at her church twice a week. But she'd started falling asleep at odd times. She lost track of time. One day she left the stove on for hours and forgot. Her daughter brought her in fearing dementia. But after tests, it wasn't dementia. It was damage from several tiny strokes, the kind that don't cause paralysis or speech loss, but slowly rob the brain of function. And when I asked Ruth about her routine, do you know what she said? "Oh, honey, I start every day with a biscuit and jam. Been doing that for 50 years. A biscuit and jam." For 50 years. That's nearly 20,000 mornings of sugar starch and zero protein, no fiber, no healthy fats, just a blood sugar roller coaster that quietly wore away at her brain. I'm not sharing this to make you feel guilty. I'm sharing this so you know the truth. You have more control than you think, and the changes don't have to be drastic, they just have to be intentional. So let's talk about how you can begin. First, understand this: your brain thrives on stability. That means steady blood flow, balanced glucose levels, and reduced inflammation. When your blood sugar spikes from sugary cereals, white bread-flavored yogurts, even that light fruit juice, your body reacts like it's under attack. It releases stress hormones, narrows your arteries, and pushes your heart to work harder. That might have been manageable at 35, but at 65 or 75, it's a dangerous game. The good news: every positive choice you make strengthens your body's ability to recover. I've seen men in their 80s lower their stroke risk in just a few months by changing their breakfast habits. It starts with these simple principles. Eat something that takes time to digest. That means fiber like oats or chia seeds. Add protein like eggs, cottage cheese, or Greek yogurt, the plain kind. Add healthy fats like olive oil, nuts, or avocado. These foods tell your body, no need to panic. Energy is here, and it's steady. If you enjoy bread, switch to sprouted grain varieties, or breads made with real whole grains, not just labeled wheat. They keep your blood sugar from surging. If you enjoy something sweet, choose a small handful of berries, not juice or sweet spreads. And don't underestimate hydration. Dehydration thickens the blood, making clots more likely. A glass of warm water with lemon in the morning helps stimulate digestion and circulation without overloading your system. A 2021 study out of Johns Hopkins showed that elderly adults who ate high-protein, high-fiber breakfasts had better cognitive scores and lower rates of cardiovascular events, than those who ate refined carb, high sugar meals. What does that mean for you? A small shift in your plate can mean more years of clarity, more years of walking without assistance, more years of remembering your grandchildren's names. I saw Ruth again 6 months later. Her daughter said she'd been more herself. She wasn't napping randomly anymore. Her balance had improved. She even started dancing again at her church socials. All she changed was her breakfast. Eggs and spinach replaced her biscuit. Fresh fruit replaced jam. A handful of almonds instead of sugary cereal. I remember her laughing, saying, "I miss my biscuit some mornings, but I don't miss forgetting where I am." So, sir, ma'am, you don't have to give up everything. But you do have to give your body what it truly needs. You deserve mornings filled with calm, not confusion. With strength, not stiffness. With presence, not regret. Every breakfast is a chance to restore, to protect, to remember. And if something in this message struck you even just a little, I invite you to take a deep breath. Look at your next meal and choose life over habit. You are still in charge.